guys, Willis94 here, back again with yet another video with some exciting news for you. As you can tell in the title, Tenere 700. Did it happen? It did. I think Mr. Hoops agrees. I think he might be a little bit mad that he can't come along on rides with me, but the new investment, and it's something that I'm just over the moon about, and the way it happened was crazy. So bear with me. I'm going to tell you a little story about it, and we're going to walk through some of the specs of the bike and how it looks. Keeping in mind that this is coming from someone who's getting into the adventure bike world for the very first time. I've had a Harley Davidson, I've had a couple of different street super sport bikes. I've also had my crotch rockets, as we call them, but race bikes, super sport bikes. And just every bike that I've ridden has been a completely different experience. So when I get on the bike for the first time and I start riding it, I start to realize the things that I love and I hate. So with all that being said, this is a completely new experience for me. So the research I've done and just the first impression, I haven't even put a full kilometer on the bike yet. But even just from that short period of riding, the things that I've discovered about the bike and the things I like and don't like about the bike, it's all going to be in this video. So stay tuned and stick around for a cool story and some pretty pictures of a nice motorcycle. So on to story time. This is how it went down. A few months ago, a friend of mine and I, who grew up together, we share a lot of similar interests. We decided that we were going to go on this camping trip. So we go out there, beautiful place. As a matter of fact, if you look through my channel, it's the Nordag trip. Beautiful, beautiful place. And you guys should check out that video. You'll really get an idea of what's going on. But with that being said, we like to hunt, we like to fish, we like to camp, we like to make videos, we like to do all that kind of cool stuff. So we're out there having a good time, and we were joking about maybe getting some dirt bikes. And then we started looking into the world, and fast forward a bit of time, and a few months later, we're obsessed with the adventure bike world. It fits our lifestyle. We can camp, we can go on big road trips, we can do all this stuff, but still have fun like we could on a dirt bike. Now, with the bike being super heavy and big, you might not be able to get as crazy per se, but I have seen special guys, and I'll put a link to a video in below of this guy who's unbelievable, and it's actually a great cinematic video to watch. You can get good enough to treat it just like a little dirt bike. But of course, all intents and purposes, we want to travel, we want to do the adventure bike life. So I go to the store the other day with my pops, and we're looking for a seat for a John Deere tractor. He's bought one for the farm, and he wants to clean it up, make it look nice, because he's really meticulous and OCD like that. So we go to get this seat, and I'm kind of sad because I'm like, hey, this place has only got tractor stuff. Dad, do you mind if we go check out a spot to go look at some bikes? So we go. I haven't been able to find the Tenere 700 anywhere available in stock, but I walk in, I talk to the sales guy, I say, hey man, I would really like to order a Tenere 700 for next season. Could you walk me through the process, and can we go through pricing, whatever? And he goes, man, a guy was trying to buy one last week and he bailed out, sitting right there. So I walked over to the bike, over the moon, excited, obviously, and I said, okay, let's see how it works out. So fast forwarding through all the boring stuff, within an hour and a half, I had all of my paperwork done, and I was picking up the bike and taking it home. So the dream and the giggles and the laughs about doing this for next season became a reality very fast. Now, over the winter season, I am going to need to get some serious modifications done to the bike. And by serious, I don't mean seriously hard. It's just there's a lot of things I have to do, and little things to protect the safety and the integrity of myself and the bike, and also to retrofit it properly to be able to do what I need it to do. So that's it. That's the story. It's how it happened, and as you see, it's at my house. I own it, and I'm just doing this right in fall, so I got all winter to just sit there and drool and think about it and plan for it. So that's a super exciting thing. Now, the last thing I'll stress is one of the biggest worries I actually have is just how big the bike is. Seeing it on the videos doesn't do it justice. People say it's big, but actually sitting on it yourself and riding it and feeling it and trying to hold it up, it's 452 pounds and it's super tall. I'm 5'9", 5'10" on a good day when my back's straight, and I'm not the tallest guy in the world. I'm not small, but this bike is huge. I'm 184 pounds. The bike is 452 pounds. So in the sense of performance, I'm light enough that the bike will basically treat it like I'm not even on it, which is awesome. But it's also going to treat me like I'm not even on it. So I'm definitely going to drop the bike. My dad used to always say this to me when I got into the motorcycle world, and I found it really funny, and this is the honest truth. It's the best thing. It's not if you go down, it's how hard and how bad you go down. So keeping that in mind, of course there's a little stress. I'm used to street bikes. We're going off-roading, we're camping, we're doing touring. It's gonna be a different life. But a little bit of fear and all excitement, especially when you're doing cool, badass stuff like this. Okay, well, here we go with all the fun, boring stuff. Now, you have to excuse my horrible use of this, or if it turns out bad. This is the first time using a screen recorder, but it seems to be pretty cool, so we'll see how it turns out. But getting into the nitty-gritty details, for those of you who are considering this particular bike, or are just interested to know a little bit about the bike, I'm going to show you some of the stuff and the specs that are out there for it. Now, a lot of this stuff is pretty complicated and I don't understand it, and I just haven't spent enough time. I have always been more of a rider and a go guy. I've never really been the mechanic, but being an adventure bike, being new to my world, and something I'm planning on keeping for a long time, I'm definitely planning on starting to educate myself. With that being said, what I know about, let's go through it. Engine displacement, 689 cc's. It is the Tenere 700. A lot of the times when they have vehicles from factory, when they actually dyno them and they get to specific statistics, the number versus the name is slightly off. Realistically, that is the perfect reading at the highest rate average that they got at 689 cc's. But what that really translates to is it's still a 700. That's just their average peak that they got for it. So that's a true reading of 689 cc's. It's got a parallel twin engine in it. So basically what it means is the pistons sit side by side to each other and they go up and down. A lot to do with balance, a lot to do with quality of the motor. It's actually one of the most renowned motors that people love, really more than any of them out there. And the reason being is they're just so reliable. You can beat the crap out of them and they keep going. They keep on pounding. And again, I don't have much experience with this particular motor. If I'm not mistaken, Yamaha uses it in their like FZ series or their MT series, and it's slightly modified and changed a bit to work with this particular platform and gearing ratio and transmission and that kind of stuff. But the concept is exactly the same. It is the same motor. So with that being said, having that reliability and just being as great as it is, it really does make a difference. So, whoa, zoomed in a little too quick there. Compression ratio, real specific science stuff you don't have to worry about. Valve train uses a Dock 4 valves per cylinder. So you have the 2 pistons you're running for. Probably, my assumption is 2 air, 2 fuel on each. It's fuel injected. You can get adventure bikes and other bikes like the Kawasaki KL 650, and it uses carburation on a few of the other motors. But the new one that's coming out for 2022 is fuel injected, so they are upgrading that bike and getting it up to speed and a little bit more modern and high quality. Max power 72 horsepower. Now at 8,000 RPMs. Now here's a funny thing: in the motorcycle world, 72 horsepower to most car people doesn't sound like much, but in a bike it's actually a pretty impressive number, especially for an adventure bike. I'm sure some other adventure bikes out there like the KTM 990 and you know, like the BMW GS's and things like that. I'm sure that they may have more, but for this particular bike platform and weight, it's a perfect amount. This thing rips, let me tell you. I've ridden a bunch of different stuff. It's quick. Max torque 50 foot-pounds. That is quite a bit for a bike as well. It is torquey. It is geared in favor of the lower end of the bike too, which is something for the trail riding and for going up hills and putting that tranny under a lot of stress and that motor under a lot of stress. It's just a beefy little monster. So as long as you're decently on the throttle, depending on how intense the situation is, the power pulls right through. 6-speed transmission makes it nice for highway riding and having that stretchability. Clutch, it's a wet clutch. Ducati is a company that does a dry clutch. They're just super noisy, and apparently they're a bit of a maintenance nightmare. I've personally never owned one, so I can't elaborate it on too much, but I've heard a lot of nightmare stories. But I've also heard a lot of good stories, so it's kind of a different way. Sealed O-ring chain pretty much explains itself. Front suspension travel. Now this is where it gets a little bit tricky. A lot of the professionals out there that go hard, they talk about switching the suspension on this, but the type of riding I'm planning on doing and for the YouTube channel for you guys to be a part of, I don't need to do anything too crazy like that because I'm not going to be doing backflips and doing crazy jumps. Now, with that being said, In the bottom of the video, I'm going to leave a link to probably one of the most amazing riders I've ever seen in my life, let alone a rider of an adventure bike. He's a trial bike, dirt biker by nature, and he took one of these things out, and obviously he spent lots of time with the machine, and it's crazy. So be sure at the end of the video to check in the bottom and look at that. Now, rear brakes, Brembo's, cool. Brembo brakes are an awesome brand. They're on sports cars. They're all over the place. They're a single piston caliper, 245 millimeter disc, but it does have 2 discs. So in the front end, it dual disc system. So it has a disc on each side. There's been a lot of professionals, again, complaining about how mushy and soft the brakes are. I've felt it myself. It is a little spooky. It doesn't push back on your hand or your foot, so you don't really know until it's too late that you've locked it up. So with this bike, especially going downhill and all that weight, you got to be real feathery and light on your front brake. Front wheel 21 inches, spoke tube type. That's another argument, tube versus tubeless. I'll find out for my own self as I go on, of course, but again, it's love and hate, and it's more of a favored thing between which one a rider would like more throughout the professional market and the review videos. They use Pirelli Scorpion Rally STRs. Now, I will say this, they're a little slippy. They're grippy, they're great, and the biggest reason they're on there is because they're good enough for all scenarios, but they're really good on the road. Eliminates vibration, they're not chunky, you're not wearing them down a whole lot because they're not an off-road biased tire, and those are the rest of the specs about them. So maybe one day I will switch them, but my intention is to be able to ride from highway to dirt and sand and rock and gravel the best way possible and have the best traction on both sides. The Tenere dimensions. Okay, so this stuff really doesn't matter too much. It matters to the guy that's really picking it apart, so feel free to take a look through that. This is where it gets interesting, and I talk about my fears with the bike. Length, width, and height. You look at those measurements, it's a tall bike. I don't know exactly where those measurements are measured from, if it's from the top of the windscreen to the bottom of the tire, or if it's from the seat and down. Either way, I'm telling you right now, being around 5'10", 5'9", I'm on my tippy toes. I don't have very long legs, and it's a little spooky. Full capacity, I did some research. It translates, especially in the Canadian market, to right around 300 to 350 kilometers for the fuel range. So that's a really nice distance, you know, and if you're not bagging on the throttle and going hard on it, it should last. You know, a lot of the places I go to are within a 3-hour radius, at least for now, and you can get auxiliary tanks, like not necessarily one that's wired on the bike. I'm sure you could, but just, you know, a little jerry can made for the bike. They're small, and, you know, averagely 12 to 15 bucks premium gas will fill you from completely empty. So it's a pretty easy, quick fill, so you don't need to carry a whole lot. And usually there's gas stations. I know in Nordegg, where we go, there's a gas station within 5 minutes of the end of the trail where we go riding, so I'm not worried about that. There's the other thing that it really bothers me too. The last point is the weight. 452 pounds. Now, there is tons of different bikes from different series and different levels that are heavier, and I'm sure there's other adventure bikes that are heavier, or maybe a few that are lighter, but 452 pounds on this bike, because of how tall it is and the footing I get on the ground, it feels heavy. Now, of course, when you're up and you're going and you're riding around and you're having fun with it, the bike becomes a part of you. It's when you're going slow and you got to be constantly putting your feet down, or you're going over rocks and the bike's trying to throw you off and you're trying to hold up that weight, and you get over that center of gravity either to the left or the right side, that's when you feel that weight. And I'm telling you right now, it is a heavy bike. Headlights, as you've seen in the beginning of the intro video, they're gorgeous. They're a really cool design. LED, backlit LCDs display. The display on the bike is super simple, and that's another thing that people in the review videos are also loving about this bike. For the mid-range price range, it outperforms a lot of the big competitors, and as well, it's just all around an amazing bike for simple technology. Now, why would that impress people? You know, me, I'm an average guy, so why would you listen to me? But the specialists and the people out there that are involved, and the guys that go hard, they love it. And why? Less to go wrong. It's common sense. If you're out there and you got all kinds of electronic features and sensors and this and that, you're going in water, something might get wet, something might get some moisture in it, something might break or rattle, and all of a sudden you've got electronic issues. So the chances of you having a failure while you're out in the middle of nowhere it's astronomical in comparison to something as simple. Obviously, the bike has a master ECU, like a main component, so that's kind of what tells the vehicle to run. Air fuel mixture, it's where you do your tune if you upgrade things, that kind of stuff. That's typical technology with pretty much every bike, whether it's basic or complicated. But as for added on technology, so rider aids, like stability controls and things like that, cruise controls, blah blah blah, computer selection, all this bike has is on and off for ABS. So ABS is typically used more on a road situation due to the different slippery surfaces and the braking dynamic you would have to use, because you're going 100 kilometers an hour versus 3 kilometers an hour in the bush. And when you're out in the bush and you're on a trail, one of the most important things about being able to take it off is you get the true raw feeling of the bike. You have more control. And again, ABS is really more or less, from what people have been saying about the bike and other bikes, for the road situation. So that pretty much covers the basics and the important stuff about the bike. There's this nice little read up here about the Tenere, and you can read that there. It just says there's a lot of love about the 2021 Yamaha Tenere. Overall, it very well may be the best bike for the money in the middleweight adventure segment. Prefer your bike simple, powerful, reliable, and low maintenance? Novice and experienced riders alike need to look no further. So I agree with that. It's a really nice little write-up, and it kind of simplifies everything I was saying in pros of the bike. But the one thing I will touch up on again that I may argue with them on the whole novice rider section is just how big the bike how big the bike is. But from what I've learned, seen, and actually felt myself in person, is adventure bikes are just heavy as hell anyway. You're not going to be able to take the adventure bike with the same light-hearted approach as you would like a dirt bike. You know, you can really rip on them, but you can use your body to pick them up and throw them around a little bit more. This bike, I assume, and from what other people have said themselves, professionals and people that ride all the time, it's about balance, throttle, and clutch control with this bike to keep your center of gravity up. It's not so much one of those things where you can just throw it around with your body. So now that that's all over, I appreciate you looking at or listening to my little spiel here, and we'll let you guys get back to your evening. But that's pretty much all the specs and the boring stuff about the bike. So thanks for listening and staying with me this long. There you have it. That's my new exciting thing. I have loved machines, cars, sport bikes, tanks, you name it. I've loved all the kind of off-road stuff. I've loved all the kind of street stuff. I've had fun with it all. But being able to do the adventure things that I like to do, go on my bike and have the opportunity with the GoPro, my drone, and some really good friends to go into the wilderness and ride these monsters, I'm super excited. And again, thank you guys so much for tuning in to yet another one of my videos. We're super jacked, and more importantly, you guys now know as a preview of what kind of content I'm going to be posting up in the next year. So until next time, Willows94, peace and love. Give me a like, give me a subscribe, give me a follow, share my stuff with some of your friends and show them the cool stuff I'm up to. And if you're a rider, message me, because we're looking to build a big team. Love you guys. Thanks again. Until next time, Willows94. Peace.
Without you here, can't sleep, can't breathe. I need you here, right next to me. Thoughts in my head, racing. We can't go on like this anymore. I'm done with the games, quit playing. Summer fun, I saw you right up in the summertime. I tried to make you mine, it wouldn't work. Put in work, I had to push you first. I lost my mind, went berserk. I feel like Uzi Vert. Vivian Westwood chain hanging right around my neck. Balenciaga kicks 44 when I step. Summer fun, I saw you right up in the summertime. But now I stay inside all the time, wasting away waiting for you to call one more time. Without you here, can't sleep.